Good night. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'd like to call to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Welcome. Our inspirational message for this evening. Kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless. Mother Teresa. Our bulletin board recognition, which has gone up a notch, is now on the windowsill, a little bit higher over there. We'd like to thank Mrs. Drew's 6th grade class, Time to Eat. So if you get a moment, please take a walk over there and take a look at the fabulous work.
Okay, on to approval of minutes. March 12th monthly board meeting and March 20th special meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, approval of warrants, budget transfers, and wire transfers as detailed in the mailing. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Approval of treasurer's report as detailed in the mailing. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. And now we move on to the presentation for the final budget presentation. Mr. McNeil?
Thank you. Well, it's hard to believe that we're actually at this moment. We started way back in November, and now it's already April to do the budget adoption. So we're here to discuss what exactly the budget is going to entail for the 1920 school year. So we'll start off with the first slide. The question everybody's been asking the past couple meetings is, what is the tax levy going to be? The tax levy for the current school year, from 1920 school year, will be below the tax cap maximum. The tax cap maximum is a 3.41% increase. We'll be coming in under the tax cap maximum again. Just so you know, because of that, the residents of North Merritt will be able to, once again, the eligible residents, to receive tax rebate from the state, because the district is once again coming in under the tax cap maximum. To be able to pass this, all we need is 50% plus 1 vote to pass that. So once again, we'll be coming under the tax cap maximum this school year. Next. So now, what is the revenue sources for the 1920 school year? As we discussed, the tax levy will be coming in at a 337, which is an increase of about 766. For the people who have seen the presentations online and come to the meetings, the tuition for next year will be going down. We're having less students come into the district than we're able to charge for, so that's a major decrease in regard to that. You'll see some increases in regard to health services and interest. You'll also see a decrease in other classified revenue. E-rate is no longer available to districts anymore, so that's the reason for that one. So there's nothing we can do about that. State aid is actually going up for us next year. For normal state aid, the foundation aid, the non-expense driven aids, it's going up $75,000. Building aid, because of the bond, is going up $142,000. And once again, we're happy to show that BOCE's aid is going up $69,000 for next year. So the total increase in regard to that is $327,000. We'll be using reserves again. Each year the district takes certain reserves that they're eligible to use, including the employment reserve and the ERS reserve, to help fund the budget for the current school year. What that is, it's an expression I use every year, dollar for dollar. Whatever the budget line for the employment and the ERS reserve is, that's the exact amount that we're charging reserve for that year. So if hypothetically it comes in under next year, we'll use less from the reserve. So whatever we budgeted for, whatever the expense is, that's the exact amount that will be taken out of the reserve that year. might have seen throughout the years, we have a reserve plan, and in the reserve plan, it spells out all the different reserves we have, as well as the uses of it, including the appropriate fund balance. The appropriate fund balance, as you hear in all districts, and the high school districts actually said it last week too with theirs, it's one of those ones that you want to decrease as much as possible, because what that basically means is you're trying to take money from this year's budget and give it for the next year's budget. And each year the budgets are getting tighter and tighter, so to be able to save that money to give the following year makes it more difficult. So the goal is to be able to eliminate that, but stay well within the tax cap each year. So the budget increase is going to be a 1.89% increase. If you go to the next slide. This is just a pie chart that breaks down the revenue sources. 71% of the revenue received is from the tax levy. 1% is the LIFA pilots. State aid is 23%. Reserves is 2%, and the appropriated fund balance is another 2%. Next slide. Three-part budget. Three-part budget is the breakdown of the current budget, broken down in the administrative portion, the capital program, capital portion, as well as the program portion. Once again, the budget increase is going to be $615,000, which is a 1.89% increase over the budget from the year before. If you go to the next slide, you'll see the breakdown of it. 73% of it goes to programs, 14% is capital, and 13% of the budget goes to administrative costs. See, people asking, well, what are those three categories again? The next slide, you'll see the administrative portion of the budget. In that portion of it, the 13% is all expenses from the Board of Education, the administration, the business office, the financials, auditing, legal, insurance, personnel, registration, supervision, and all the benefits that are associated with that. That winds up being 13% of the budget. The next portion of it is the program, which winds up being 72.56 exactly percent of the budget. What is that? That's the nuts and bolts of what you see with the students. That's everything in regard to the program system. Salaries for the education, for teachers. It's the psychological services, the health services, the guidance counselors, the social workers. Everything regarding the programs of the district comes out of this portion of it, which represents 72%. The last portion of it is the capital portion of the budget, which is 14%. That's all the costs to basically run the district. The lights, the electricity, the oil, the debt service, all those things to be able to make the district run come out of this one, which is also what else? The utilities, I'm sorry. Next slide. Once again, it's a 1.89% increase over the year before. The reason why that's important is because that's actually the second lowest budget increase that the district has had in over 25 years. So we're happy that we're able to do more with less. So it's one of the things we're proud of with this budget. This is a part of the presentation I hate doing, but I have to inform people. Say we only get 50%, we don't get that extra one vote, or we only get 49%, and the budget fails. What happens when it goes down? Well, first off, the board has the option to go on contingency, take a contingency budget, or put the budget vote out again a month later in June. Hypothetically, if they do that and it goes down again, then you're forced to go on a contingency budget. With the contingency budget, there's certain legal requirements that the district has to follow. Next slide. First and foremost, whatever your tax levy was last year, that's what it has to be the following year. So there's a 0% increase in the tax levy. Well, what does that mean? It would mean from the budget we were just talking about earlier, we would have to cut an additional $766,710 from that budget to be able to do that. So what are the legal requirements with that? The cuts that we would have to make? Go to the next slide. Under contingency, it's New York State law, requires all non-contingency items be removed first from the budget. Well, what are those? Any capital fund projects that aren't debt service, any addition, after you go through all those things, and if you still haven't reached the 766,000 number, you have to look at all possible eliminations of non-required subject classes, non-mandatory services, like extracurricular activities, and so on. Those are the things that we're required to do if it happens to go down. Next slide. That's the entire presentation. A couple of dates to know. What happens tomorrow now? You'll see later on in the agenda that the board is actually voting on the property tax report card. Once that is voted on and approved, we have to file that with the state tomorrow with all the requirements. Deadline for submissions for petitions to the board for the seats to run for the board is the 22nd. There'll be meet the candidate nights for anyone who's running for the board on May 8th. And then we'll have another budget hearing meeting at the next board meeting to discuss the budget again on the normal meeting of May 14th. Voter registration will be here on the 15th. And then the all-important May 21st date, which is the budget vote. Once again, the board has decided that the budget vote will be taking place again at the library this year from 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then if we don't get that 50% plus one vote, then we have to go for a revote. The revote would actually take place on June 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDade. Does the board have any questions for Mr. McDade?
Yeah, one. Mr. McDade, can I ask you a big favor?
Sure.
Can you go back to the contingency slide for one moment? I missed the bottom part of that slide. I'm sorry, did you just turn on?
I can go back.
I just wanted to, there was a second slide, and we only went over the first couple, and I didn't finish reading the bottom.
Basically, the bottom said elimination of remedial summer programs, staff reductions, and class size increases are possibilities.
Okay, to make up for the
For the
760.
the 7 to 16.
Okay, all right, thank you. That was the only one there.
I have a question. I just want to, would you say that this budget is the lowest budget increase from budget to budget in the last 25 years?
Second lowest,
Second lowest?
second lowest in over 25 years. My records only went back for 6 years, 27 years.
Anyone else? All right, great job, Mr. McDade. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Good evening, welcome. Superintendent comments. I'd like to begin with a correspondence that was written to myself and Mrs. Friedman, which will lead me into my theater arts shout out from a parent from Camp Avenue. Just a few lines. It was an amazing show, and all of the advisors and volunteers really did a lot behind the scenes to make it happen. Please pass along compliments and gratitude to them all. We had the pleasure of hosting our 21st Theater Arts production, Annie. I think it was 2 weekends ago. Big shout out to Joyce Kelly, Lisa Sokol, Sheila Kushner, Gail Appel, Tina Silverman, and I can go on and on and on and on. I have to be honest with you, and I know if any of you have listened to me, I am in awe of the students and the staff and the performance. It is truly a production, and I've said this 1,000 times. It's not a play. It is a production. From backstage to on stage, from the music to the lines to the art to the stage crew. This puts many, many high school shows to shame. And I have to be honest with you. Our students are amazing. Our staff does an amazing job preparing them. And I had the pleasure of being backstage for one of the dress rehearsals because I didn't want to ruin the show for myself, so to speak, when Friday came. And it worked like a well-oiled machine. And all I want is one of those earpieces because everyone's talking in them and everyone knows what to do. And I know, Mrs. Cushing, I was in the way, but that's okay. good time. You know, hats are flying. It was truly amazing, and every year I look forward to it, and I have to be honest with you, it just gets better and better. So a big round of applause. I have a few items I would like to provide some clarification on and give some information out to the public. The board did pass their teachers' retirement incentive quite a few weeks ago. Just to give you some background on that and the timing of it, the governor's message up until most recently was basically that there would be no more additional state aid for school districts. We're always looking to generate additional revenue if we can, and we presented, and I say we, I mean central office and myself, presented to the Board of Education a retirement incentive plan of when teachers retire, they receive 50% of their sick days as a buyout, and this retirement incentive would have offered them 55% of their sick days as a buyout, which approximately costs about $5,500 additionally per person. Just to give you some background, in the spring of 2017, the retirement incentive offered 70%, and there were no teachers who took that opportunity. In spring 2018, which was last year, 60% was offered, and we did have a few. Ms. McDade, how many total? Six? Six. And this year we dropped it to 55%, or upped it from 50 to 55%. And the incentive was taken by 3 teachers, and they've asked to be their names not to be mentioned at this point, and we do respect their confidentiality request. I also want to be clear that the incentive was not needed to finalize or make the budget. It was put out there to the Board of Education based on what the governor's message actually was. And lo and behold, it did change a little bit, but we wanted to offset that zero that he was basically saying we would receive in state aid. And if anyone has any questions about it, as always, Mr. McDade's office is open. Phone calls, emails, and even in-person meetings. Another clarification I'd like to provide or clear up, so to speak. There's been, I believe, some confusion regarding renovations to the superintendent's suite or office. Recently, we did have new windows put in under Mr. Carter's supervision. My office and Mrs. Friedman's office, there are actually temporary walls that create our office. It was a classroom, I guess, well before my time here. And the walls did not meet the windows appropriately in my office and Mrs. Friedman's office. With that being said, the windows couldn't be opened. And the contractor did come in and basically told us that we needed to move our walls to adjust. And Mr. Carter, I know I'm destroying this conversation, but he was there, he was my witness, and we had to have the walls configured. I must be doing a really bad job because he just got up.
I don't like standing up, so I was just kidding. The old walls were configured to match up with the mullions of the old windows. New windows were completely different. They weren't double hung. They were completely different configuration. So now you had zigs and zags that made no sense, and you couldn't reach behind the wall to open your window.
Yeah.
So we had to just straighten out the walls and do a couple of things.
And obviously that had to be done during non-business hours, which actually happened over Veterans Day weekend.
Correct. Yeah. Started it on a Friday night, continued it Saturday, finished it up on a Monday.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Okay, thank you. I didn't do such a bad job.
Nah, not at all.
Also, upon my arrival, David Feller, which was the former superintendent, and it's going to sound a little sexist, he was a man, and his office he was in for, I think it was 14 years. He had these bookcases up against the wall. They were kind of built in, but they weren't. They were actually falling down, to be honest with you. So when I did arrive, I did ask if I could remove those because they were not in great shape. We did remove the bookcases, or I didn't, under Jim Sada. His team did. He did remove those bookcases for me. And in doing so, I did come with a huge library of books. I guess being in education for 27 years, you do build up on materials. And I did purchase 2 pieces of furniture to house my library of educational materials and books. Also, my office was painted. I was very frugal in that I chose a paint that was also used in boardroom. My husband taught me that. Can we use this paint anywhere else, Cindy? You would say to me, so I kind of put that hat on and did that as well. We used the paint for and poor Mrs. Friedman, I didn't really give her a choice. No, we made the choice together of painting it to give it a fresh coat of paint. Mr. Fellow is probably proud to know I still sit at his desk, and I still sit in his chair, and as Tracy Miller, our board vice president, pointed out to me, he carved his initials in that desk. So now tomorrow I have to go find those initials someplace and send him a little email and thank him. And I don't want to put my initials because then it goes back to that whole, like, you know, going out thing. People might think that we have a relationship. So unlike our people did on the tree. I also would like to clear up, I do have a television in my office. In all seriousness, when I did arrive here, I felt that it was very important that in a situation such as pending inclement weather, or inclement weather that we might be in the middle of during a school day, that Channel 12 News is accessible to the superintendent of schools who makes the decision of whether or not to close or send children home early or begin late, as well as any neighborhood police activity. I think it was my first month here, all Nassau County schools were told that there were bombs in each of their schools. So my team and I arrived at 2 o'clock in the morning to do building sweeps as well as exterior sweeps, and a television in a situation like that is very important. So I just wanted to clarify, and that I believe is a 38, 40-inch TV, and the price tag on that was $249, so we did shop around, Mr. McJade. So I just wanted to clarify some misinformation that is out there about my office. And if anyone has any questions about what I've done to my office or why something is done, please feel free to call me, email me, or set up an appointment. On a positive note, we had a great library visit in Mrs. Drew's 6th grade class. We have a partnership with the North Merrick Library, and they sent some of their workers to come down and work with our students on all of their materials and the offerings that we have. And we're actually going to be setting up a parent workshop when it gets closer to the summer, and ask the North Merrick Library to come here and share with our parents all of the great things that the library can offer their students, our students, especially over the summer months when students are looking for things to do. So that was a very exciting time for our 6th graders in Mrs. Drew's class, and we hope for them to visit other classes. Let's see here. Assessments. Well, that hit the news pretty big this week. Actually, North Merrick really wasn't mentioned. I know that my partner, John Palmer, over in Merrick, took a hit there on the article a little bit. I want to be clear that with assessments, our state assessments, we respect parent choice. It is a parent's choice of whether or not their child takes the assessment. It is our job to ensure that children, whether they are sitting for the assessment or opting out of the assessment, feel safe and secure. It is not a teacher's responsibility to tell a parent to opt out. It is not their role. That is a parent's decision. It is the district's responsibility to provide information as we acquire information from the state education department. So I just, again, and I've been saying that message now, this is my 3rd year, we fully support a parent's decision and a parent's choice. And if any parent ever wants to have that discussion with me or anyone on my team or principals, we're open to those discussions, but it is a parent's decision. School breaks. Another clarification I would like to make is that when we're talking about school breaks, there have been some questions as to why is the February break being spoken about in conjunction with the superintendent's contract. This is my contract now. It is not the February break that's being spoken about. so I'd like to clarify that. There are 2 breaks throughout the school year, the Christmas break and the spring break, that nobody comes to work. The CSEA contract during the last negotiation, which was last March, part of that negotiation was that they would not report to work during up to 3 days, in addition to the holidays during the Christmas break, as well as the spring break. That includes our clerical staff, as well as our custodians and our maintenance workers, and Mr. Carter, as well as the central office team. And the same applies for the Easter break. Those are contractual benefits. That is not a gift of public funds. They are contractual benefits. My contract does not have that. So I must have drawn the short straw, because I'm the only person in the district that has to come to work, and I'm joking. But the problem with that is I can't come to work unless a custodian is here at the same time. So the conversation that is going on right now is for when I choose to come to work and not take vacation during those breaks, it costs the district money. It costs the district overtime to bring a custodian in, because that is that custodian's day off. Those are the conversations that are going on right now. During February break, the CSEA contract states that they report to work. The assistant superintendents do not report to work as per their contract. The superintendent reports to work. The custodians are here, so we're not paying them extra if I would like to come in. So I hope that clarifies any misinformation that is out there. And if anyone has any questions about the contracts, they are all on the website for people to read. And sometimes legal language can be confusing, so please feel free to ask. But that's basically what the conversation has been about regarding my contract and the breaks. The budget. The budget we've been working on so diligently over the last several months. Part of the budget process and part of the superintendent's responsibility is to speak with his or her Board of Education about revenue sources. In doing so, the topic that may come up is the sale of land or buildings or leasing of land or buildings. Those are revenue sources. Those are conversations that a superintendent does have with his or her Board of Education in executive session. All executive session items are discussed prior with legal counsel before those items are discussed in executive session. Mrs. Bonnie, can you confer on that? Yes. Do I call Darcio and have those conversations? Yes. Every item that is discussed in executive session is reviewed with counsel. Revenue sources such as the sale or leasing of land was discussed with this Board of Education as it pertains to the budget. The land that was spoken about particularly was the land behind Fayette, not the entire parcel of land. We are in a current agreement with Merrick Woods to lease portions of the Fayette land during the summer. Some of the conversation that occurred was, would they be interested in increasing what they lease during the summer? Would they eventually be interested in possibly purchasing land? But during every one of those conversations, the concern was not to touch the soccer fields or the baseball fields. A strip here, a strip there. If the Board of Education had chosen to move forward with the idea of selling land, that discussion would have came into the public forum. And then if the board in the public forum decided to move forward, that would go for voter approval. So I just wanted to clear, we are not selling any land in the district, and we are definitely not selling any land behind Fayette. And the aerial views that Mr. Carter provided were free of charge for the Board of Education to look at from Google Earth. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but you can get your own parcel of land from Google Earth and see what your property looks like as well. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very, very extensive and very informative. Thank you. And then would like to thank all the students for their amazing work. Unfortunately, they're not here, however, hopefully some parents are still here, as we saw in the Science Museum walk tonight. We have very talented children here in North Merrick, and the parents should be very proud. We hope they keep up the fabulous work and the dedication associated with these projects. Which brings me to a brief summary of the wonderful accomplishments here in North Merrick. This board and superintendent in collaboration do a lot with a little in North Merrick, and we listen to the community. The community asked for a language program. We listened and implemented Spanish and Mandarin programs. The community asked for an improved summer program. We listened, and we brought in 5 summer programs. The community asked to keep the existing aftercare program. We listened and didn't send an RFP for other programs. The community asked for extra help. We listened and implemented the H2O program after school. The community asked for an updated technology in the classrooms. We listened and are in the process of creating state-of-the-art computer labs and libraries in each of our buildings. The community asked to make sure we are fiscally sound. Thank you, Mr. McDee. We listened and have a 10-year plan for our financial stability. The community asked for more transparency. We listened and moved non-confidential items from executive session to public session. The community asked to keep our taxes as low as possible. We listened and are proposing a budget that is the second lowest budget-to-budget increase in over 25 years. With the board's guidance, Dr. Saniak has increased our BOCES reimbursement, also known as additional aid to the district, by $220,000 per year since she started in North America. That is a huge savings to the district that we put into the programs and improvements that benefit the children without overtaxing the North Merrick taxpayers. It is disheartening to know that some individuals are threatening our community and attacking others. We encourage questions without attacking our superintendent and staff. Condemning others is detrimental to our district as a whole, and to see on social media posts that some individuals are trying to discourage others to vote down our budget due to a personal vendetta is alarming. We believe in a positive atmosphere for our children and a healthy working relationship between the board, superintendent, and staff benefits the children in the district. We would like to reach out to the community for their help to maintain and promote this positive atmosphere for our children so they can thrive and develop to their full potential here in North Merrick. We can emphasize how frustrated someone can feel when they are not privy to confidential information discussed. Please understand that as ethical board members, we took an oath of office and must maintain confidentiality. Any accusations of collusion are unfounded and considered slander. Let's not lose focus on the positive momentum we started this year for the students. Community is defined as, quote, the people living in one particular area or people who are considered as a unit because of their common interests, social group, or nationality. This could include parents, teachers, administrators, students, aides, crossing guards, principals, grandparents, and many others within North Merrick's community. Pride is defined as, quote, a feeling of pleasure and satisfaction that you get because you or people connected with you have done something good. We have a lot of pride in our community. Let's continue to support each other so our children have the best education possible, and we stay focused with our North Merrick vision, which is the North you are called, come forward to the microphone and state your full name. Questions are to be addressed to the board president, not to individual board members. Personal attacks on individual board members, administrators, and staff will not be tolerated and can be cause to adjourn the meeting. There will be no back and forth dialogue. We're strict on that. Out of courtesy and fairness to the rest of the audience, each visitor will limit his or her comments to one item lasting no more than 3 minutes. To exceed a 3-minute session or ask only, not to exceed a 30-minute session or ask only one question. Public discussion, this is very small. Public discussion of matters relating to staff and students by which their reputation, privacy, or rights to due process, or those of others could be in some way violated is prohibited. We do have one card. Okay, Chris McKish.
I have
Promise to
four
stay.
quick items so I promise to stand up for you.
That's fine.
Is this on?
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Good evening, thank you for indulging me. I wanted to ask a question that's been brought up, if I could ask them all, you can answer all together. I'd like to know when the work session is going to be scheduled for the programs, how they're going to be rolled out. We all talked about that great presentation, and it would be great for the board to listen to some of the resident feedback on what else could be enhanced, maybe a Q&A. I wanted to hear if there are any plans for air conditioning in the Camp Avenue classrooms. We had a 78-degree day, so it's right around the corner. There was a mention of a company called Syntax at the budget meeting, and I think there were people that mentioned it being a PR firm or some kind of a fixer. I was wondering if it's the same communications group that's been used for years by Central District for their website. I see it's used for Belmar to submit articles to Patch and the Long Island Herald. Our sister elementary schools in Merritt use it for their website. And I think it's used for budget mailings. I don't think the Board of Ed wants to use it for PR purposes. It doesn't make any sense to me. But that being said, can you tell me specifically why they were retained? Finally, I know there are some residents that continue to state they felt intimidated by teachers that came to the meeting with their Apple t-shirts on. They sat quietly and respectfully at the meeting in February. If you feel intimidated by our teachers and the teachers of neighborhood districts, who through their union leader wanted parents and residents to know that they feel there is give back in ways not described in the contract, you may not know what the word intimidation means. It means to frighten or menace, to scare, terrify, dominate, or browbeat, bully. I think policy 1120 was clear when it was reviewed in 2016 and 2018 and approved unanimously 6-0 by the prior board. It allows that teachers union president to speak. Whether you agree with her or not, I would agree that she did speak with passion, but was in no way disrespectful. Her words were not perceived as an attempt to intimidate residents that seem well under rebuttal or their 2 cents. And as a resident, I want to hear all sides of an issue. I might, however, feel intimidated if I was a North American teacher, Board of Ed member, administrative staff member, or parent who was the target of an in-person or social media campaign and attack. When I come up to this microphone, I don't yell at people, I don't talk down to people, and I don't try to intimidate people. Writing on social media that a board member needs to go sounds like intimidation. Stating that there's collusion because Board of Ed members agree can alarm and intimidate the public. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Questioning the Board of Ed and our administration is an important part of the public's participation, but being respectful, informed, and truthful is our responsibility as human beings. As a community, I would hope people can refrain from the slanderous comments and rise above bullying. As adults, we're setting the tone for our children, and I had no idea you were going to say all this stuff. I feel like I'm reading your speech. I would not say anything online or in this meeting that I wouldn't say in front of my own son. We all have an example to set, and it's our choice what example we set. Thank you very much.
I think we should answer briefly.
Okay, very quickly, the work session is set for the prior to the next Board of Education meeting on May 14th at 7:15. Thank you. to discuss programs. I believe that's on the agenda.
It is on
Right,
the very
okay.
last page.
As for air conditioning, as you may or may not know, we did upgrade the electricity at Fayette and Old Mill Road already. Mr. Carter acquired a quote this week to upgrade the electricity at Camp Avenue School. That's kind of like the first step if we are going to move into any air conditioning model. Our univents are AC compatible, and that was done when we put those univents in. But we can't do anything until we take a look at the electrical supply that would need to be provided. So we did get that, and that's on the agenda for Monday at Cabinet to continue. And thank you, Mr. Carter, for getting the quote. Syntax is a PR firm. Yes, the high school district and some of our components do use it for various reasons. Website, budget information to go out. We had passed the resolution. The Department of Justice has put forth a mandate that all budget materials that reach the public must be put out not only in English but in Spanish. At a superintendent's meeting, listening to what other superintendents were doing, they were speaking to Syntax, which was their regular PR firm. In order for me to engage in a conversation with Kathy Beatty, who is the president of Syntax, we had to pass a resolution which allowed me to do that. Unbeknownst to me, I thought we already had a memorandum of agreement, but it had expired. So from this point forward, actually, that will be something that's on the reorg meeting, just in case I need to ever have a conversation with her. In having a conversation with her, the only thing we needed was translation. We do our budget brochure in-house, we do our website in-house, and funny, she said that's the one thing we're not doing for districts right now. So she gave me some ideas, so we're going through BOCES for it, which is aidable, and she did not charge me for the conversation. So there has been no Syntax charge that the district has incurred.
And policy 1120 was just a comment.
And policy 1120 is
That
the
was
one
accurate,
that,
correct.
yes.
Yeah. Well, that was an accurate statement. Okay. That was before. Okay, and then next we have Lisa Katz, and there's actually 2 years, right? At the same time. You can do both at the same time, so you have to go up and down and up and down. There were 2 copies on there.
So I want to do the one about executive session first.
Okay.
Actually, I want to read something to you. Do I have to say my name anymore? I don't know.
Just your name, not your address. You like the privacy around your neck, you do, sorry.
So my question is this. According to the open meeting laws, the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property or the proposed acquisition, sale, or exchange of securities, but only when publicity would substantially affect the value of these things. Public Office Law 105 A through H. So I was on the high school board when we were talking about the sale of Jerusalem Avenue. When we were talking about the sale of Jerusalem Avenue, we were talking about the value of the building. We said there's going to be over $1 million worth of renovations, and the district just couldn't afford that. So my question is, the sale of a field, how does that affect the value? And I guess that's really for the lawyer.
If you're asking,
now we can.
There's no resolution on the agenda. I know it's in new business, but there's no resolution on the agenda this evening to accept the petition. I followed all laws of the state for voters submitted petitions and also followed policies of the board. I expect the board to accept the petition within accordance to education laws. I'm just concerned that Ms. Long is not going to have enough time to put it on the ballot.
If we do it as a walk-on, she will.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and Mr. and Mrs. Rodaham? Mr.
Mr. Rodan.
There wasn't a first name on there.
Yeah, no worries. I'm hearing some funny stories about having clarification, which I don't understand what's going on. So I'm new to the district. I bought 4 years ago my property. I bought into this district because I like the school district. I have 2 kids. One who's going to be 15 months old, one who's 2 months old. Almost Irish twins, but not.
Oh, no.
No sleep. No sleep. You know, if clarification is an issue, which is not what I was going to talk about today, is listen. I hope that it's not like a situation where we're talking behind each other's backs. I look at a community that I bought into. I hope I didn't choose. I thought I chose wisely. But if this is a situation that I'm dealing with.
I know it's your first meeting. You didn't hear it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry,
it's
now I'm just jumping.
No, it's okay. I get it. No
So
worries.
if that's what I'm hearing about, it concerns me why the communication barrier is there. So if anything we can do to help create an environment to have a conversation, I think is something that I hope we can do, especially if I'm going to be here and I have my kids here. I talked to you guys. I sent an email out discussing my issue that I have with the school, dealing with the sidewalks at the school district. I took my daughter to the park over here to deal with the slides and the swings, and we had trouble walking through the sidewalk, so I asked board members to sit down and have a conversation about it. We address the issue. You guys got back to me pretty quickly, talked to me about the process, and I was happy with that result. So I just want to say thank you for that, and I hope that the sidewalks get done first. That helps. So I just want to say thank you. Give it the board.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that was the last comment. Okay.
I just wanted to
Very
mention,
much.
I think the
Oh, of course,
sidewalks
I'm
are on
sorry.
the proposition, correct, that we're voting on.
They're part of the capital,
Capital.
right, on
Improvements.
purpose to use them.
Make sure we stay safe. Trust Sam to keep us safe out there. Okay. Oh, you said fine. All right, business. I would like a motion, do I have a motion to do a consent agenda for items A through F? And the reason I'm saying A through F is I think G is a big one that has generated a couple questions. So Mr. McDade, I'm going to ask you to comment a little bit on that one, so we can't do a consent agenda for the entire. Okay, so I'm going to do A through F now. Do I have a motion for consent agenda for A through F? Motion. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, do I have a motion for letter G? Okay. Do I have a second? Second. Okay. Discussion. Mr. McDade, this is a highlight that I know you've spoken about. Well, at least my time is up. So I know this one has been questioned a couple of times. So I thought it was worthy of maybe reviewing it again very quickly because this is a large ticket item on our agenda.
Correct.
So we could talk to this one a little bit.
Basically, each year, we have this proposition to refund reserves with any excess fund balance at the end of the school year. This just sets up, if there's anything left over, where we'd be able to put it and puts limits on the amount that we would actually be able to do. Since I've been here, we've never reached any of these limits. It's just if all of a sudden, like right now, there's projections that we're probably going to be able to put about $300,000 back total in all the reserves right now. But if all of a sudden something happens with more money coming in, we'd like to have a safety net to be able to put it someplace else. So this is basically what it winds up doing. So
So this is keeping us more fiscally sound. Is that your end result?
now I know we see big numbers like $1 million. We're not hitting $1 million for that.
Not to
That's just-
exceed.
Not to exceed, because if you go back online and see the presentation in regard to the reserves plan that the district has, it has certain limits, and this keeps us within the limits. So it gives the board options in regard to where they want to put it when the money does. If
we'll do H through K. We'll just make a quick comment on J. H through K. Okay, do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? Okay, I just want to reiterate the $33 million line item right there is the one that Mr. McDade had reviewed earlier. This is just us adopting the budget to go up to vote in May. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're moving over to policies. This is just the first reading of the policies, so there's no action associated with this. We have policy 4323, 4324, and 9400. Where's my notes? Sorry. Where did my notes go? Where's my notes?
I just realized I was cheating.
You want to read my notes? So there's no action required here, so there's no vote. But I just, on the policy 9400, in the information that I have received, I just would like a consensus of the board to move forward with the red line version from Gercio, to move that version to the second read. Do we have a consensus of the board on that one? Okay, I just wanted to not wind up in a version control problem. So Joanne, that would be the version that we will move to second read next month.
I actually created it that way.
Please. Thank you. I just want to know.
That's the sound.
Perfect. Yep. Just wanted to make sure everybody's on the same page with that one. Okay, so there's no vote on that. Personnel actions report. Do I have a motion? Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 14, special services. Do I have a motion for consent agenda A and B?
Motion.
Okay, do I have a second? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? Motion carries. Now I get to the report of committees. Mr. Corona?
Okay, high school report. A big part when we first arrived last Wednesday was discussing the accident at American Avenue Middle School. A lot of people have heard. There was the information that we received, and also went to Homeland Security too, to investigate the situation. The 32-year-old male had a medical incident. He drove through a fence and drove right into the building where the car did some damage to the side entrance right by the music wing. Damage is being repaired. No time where students in danger with the damage to the building. And the overhang is actually not held up by the bricks. It's actually part of the second floor. So the overhang is fine. There's some damage to the doors. One of the doors is working, and they're going to fix that within the next couple of weeks. We also honored our all-state athletes. We had quite a few. We had, right here from Calhoun, we had Matt Condenzio, all-state boys winner track. We also had Ryan Murray here from Calhoun, who was all-state in swimming, and we had a pair of Mepham wrestlers, Kyle Anthony and Matt Heggie. And we honored them for their achievements. We also approved 2 budget propositions for the vote in May. Proposition 1 was the Central High School District budget, which is about $162 million. Proposition 2 was capital improvement projects, and it should be noted that these are coming from balance of monies in capital reserve funds. Some of the work to be done will be parking lot, tennis courts, and track resurfacing, floors and ceiling tile replacement at Mepham. Calhoun, renovate auditorium, bathrooms, replace doors all throughout Calhoun. And it should be also noted that the money comes from existing surplus, unencumbered, and unexpended capital funds. And also, Proposition 2 is independent of Proposition 1. So if, for whatever reason, Proposition 1 will go down, Proposition 2 could still go forward. That's it.
You know what, can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
So, I just wanted to say that everyone who's got their kids in the music program here, the Belmar, the bands, orchestra, and concert choir are going to Disney tomorrow
congratulations for being appointed to the New York State Teachers Governance Team as a special ed specialist. I wanted to call out that out of anybody they could have picked in the entire New York State, they selected this as a top. Congratulations. The book of the month will be called Here We Are, which is Notes for Living on Planet Earth. Friday we are having a paint night over at Old Mill Road, and their Old Mill Road PTA meeting is tomorrow night at 7:30 to vote on the slate for next year. Bayette, we have a very exciting Yankee versus Twins game coming up on May 5th, and I am the proud recipient of the SEPTA baskets, so I will be attending proudly, and I'm excited to go. The Ducks game is the 19th, which also sounds really cool. The kids who participate and go can attend to run the bases after the game, so that sounds really exciting. SEPTA, Mrs. Hammer expressed a thanks to all of our participants, so I want to share that with all of you. Their fashion show was a huge success, and period. Autism Awareness Day was, I think, a really also a big success. Everybody wore blue as far as I could see. Saw blue for supportness in all our schools, so that was really nice to see. Their next meeting will feature author Amy McCoy, which will speak about her book, which is all boiling down to sibling support. That's it.
Thank you very much. And that SEPTA event was phenomenal.
Yeah,
I think we
great.
can all attest to that. It was one of the most well-run fundraising events I have been to, and I've been to so many. So major shout out to those who were involved, the volunteers. There's so many volunteers and so many hours that go into those events. I mean, you and I know from the auctions, they really went above and beyond in reference to this auction. So major kudos to all the volunteers, both for SEPTA, both for parent-teacher associations. Our kids definitely benefit from all of the hard work, so that should be commended. Hopefully you get a clap too. You got something for us, Mr. Tony? Buildings and grounds?
Yes.
So, I just wanted to report on the door project. It's over at camp now. It went through this building very quickly, very efficiently, like I expected. They're about a quarter of the way done at camp, and same company, same results. They're doing really well. Everybody's very happy. I think even the teaching staff, when they see the equipment, they're like, wow, this is good, common sense equipment that we've got. So I'm very happy about that. I think Dr. Bromberg would agree. Another thing I've had our maintenance guys, aside from the day-to-day things that we address on the maintenance level, I've had them going around on the buildings and getting the ventilation, the rooftop fans. We've been cataloging them and checking their health and making sure that they're all working the way they ought to, especially as the warm weather comes. The ventilation is critical, so we want to keep that healthy building thing going on. We've been just getting ready. My crews and I are getting ready for summer programs, for summer projects, for ordering. This is when we do a bulk of our ordering for the waxes, the strippers, the big, I'm talking about floor strippers. Big bands for the burnishers and stuff. And it's not that fun during the summer. Field of Flags is coming. I want everybody to know Field of Flags is coming, and we want to do better than last year. This year, the camp student government is the student council is running it, and it's still going to be at Bayette because we have the most prominent and largest. We just can't fit the amount. I think the flags we sold last year wouldn't fit camp, wouldn't fit at Old Mill, unfortunately. And I expect more this year. So we're hoping for a really, really good turnout. The proceeds go to a great cause. I believe, and don't quote me, but quote me. I think it's going to Wounded Warriors this year. I think was chosen. And Dr. Senyak and I attended a threat assessment training last Tuesday at BOCES. This type of training, it's not about doors and locks and windows. non-instructional, it was very informative. So that's, you know, that's the kind of good things that we're always, there's so much security training out there that we'd be remiss in not taking it. So that was a great opportunity afforded us by BOCES. Excuse me. I just wanted to piggyback on what the gentleman came up and said. You know, we have a lot of stuff planned for this summer, but it's all budget, you know, contingent on the budget planning, budget passing. We got some great projects planned, and just, you know, we have to maintain our buildings. You know, this is where it all starts. This is our only asset, is the buildings. You know, parents come, parents go, kids come, kids go. But at the end of the day, you've got 3 buildings and more component districts that we own. We have to maintain them, and I hope we get to do a lot of fun things this summer and keep them working into top shape. And that's about it for now.
It did come up at PTA District Council, although the other schools won't have an opportunity to actually physically host the Field of Flags, we'll put several flags at each school just to show that they are participating in the program, whether it be 8, you know, at each school just around the front to show that they are participants. But just so that everyone knows, the committee, thank you, Ms. Gomes, they actually went on a little field trip, and they came to the realization that you can't put a flag in concrete. And that was pretty much the deciding factor that we had to come back to Fayette because of the grass. But each student council will rotate who's in charge of it or hosting it, so to speak. And we will have a few flags at the 2 other schools this year, which is a switch. And thank you, PTA District Council, for that recommendation.
Yeah, I think that would be great to have a little display at each building every year, just to, you know, we're all part of the same district. So.
It's such a great cause.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really cool.
It is. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, and unfinished business. One of the items we do, oh, I'm sorry. Communications. I'm so excited about Mr. Klein's presentation. I skip right ahead. We did get 2 emails and a thank you. Unfinished business. We have the work session. We did actually already address that as the question. It is on here for May 14th. And home addresses, public session. This is one in reference to one of the things that we had discussed when we first started with the cards, other than flow, was there were some public concerns about coming up to the microphone and having to state your name and address. Some people are uncomfortable with that component of coming to the microphone. We don't want to discourage people. So I think maybe what we want to talk a little bit about is typically in our meeting minutes, for the way that it's written today, correct, Joanne? We are required to put the address, it's been a practice, right, the practice, to put the addresses in. So even though people don't have to come up and state their names, it still winds up on the public document on the website with their name and address, so I'm going to get back and see the address. So I want to talk a little bit to the board about what the consensus would be to maybe not put the addresses of the people who come for public comment in that section. So talk a little bit about that.
Is it a legal requirement?
Put it in the minutes?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Does the information need to be kept on file somewhere? Is there any requirement that we have to keep it?
No.
There's no retaining period or anything, so even the cards are mostly so for follow-up questions and such? Okay, so there's no legal requirement? Okay, so how does the board feel about not putting addresses?
Are we
Yeah.
destroying the cards? Are we shredding the cards, Joanne, after each? Is there a requirement to even keep the cards?
I'd have to look at the record retention schedules for that, I don't
All
know.
right.
It
So
might be
we can
a
do that.
short-term requirement to keep them, Joanne, like, you have certain notes, yes, the X number of months, or it might fall under that, you'd have to look. You have to look at the record retention schedule.
Or the paper? Okay. Okay, so for now, keep your phone.
So I say keep the cards and let's stop putting the addresses on. minutes.
Putting the address to help protect people's privacy. Is that good? Okay.
But they're still stating it when they get it.
It's not the address.
No,
it's
that's on the
their
card,
They're just
setting
putting
it.
on
They're putting an address on the card to show that they're North Berwick residents for our policy.
the name when they stand
But
up.
name only when they
Yeah, that's
stand up, just to discuss with the board, it's the first time we've been meeting on this, so we're going to talk about potentially moving this petition forward to, and as a reminder, this is to change the number of board seats from 7 to 5. That was the petition that was submitted with the 89 signatures. So open it up for discussion in reference to how we would like to proceed with that petition. Do we want to move it forward to a resolution?
Well, I think everything was followed, requirements, so I think we're required to.
You know, I mean, I have some concerns about it. I didn't state that, you know, by moving from 7 to 5 board members increases the power of the other board members. So that wasn't on the petition. People see before they signed it. They might not have understood that.
The remaining 5?
Well, people who signed the petition might not have been aware of the fact that when you move from 7 board members to 5 board members, you're increasing the power of the board members and losing representation in the community. They might not have been aware of that when they signed the document. However, if it's done properly, we have to
Let the people vote.
Public vote, yep. Okay, so this is the verbiage that you prepared, you wanted to do a walk-on, vote of petition, okay. Resolved, the Board of Education of the North Merrick Union Free School District hereby accepts the petition as amended. We didn't, this is per the tweak language that you had sent, correct? Because the actual statements were not legally correct, so we're keeping the legal references.
The board has the authority under both the education law and of course the board policy to make any changes to bring a voter's submitted proposition to legal compliance.
So I suggest, President, I was going to make a recommendation. Can we please read the new amended petition resolution?
Do you have that handy?
Where's your reading right now?
It's amended.
Oh.
This is the whole,
The actual voter proposition that
Yeah.
you're going to be voting on now would say as follows. Shall the number of
yes.
members of the Board of Education of the North American Union Free School District be decreased to 5 members from its current 7?
Current seven.
That's the
that's the
that's
actual
what we're voting on.
verbiage
That would be the
that's,
proposition
that-
that would appear on the ballot.
that's what I wanted to 100% clarify. So I'm gonna read this, okay, in its entirety. Resolve, the Board of Education of the North Merrick Union Free School District hereby accepts the petition as amended, requesting the replacement of a voter proposition on the ballot for the district's May 20